Hey guys, welcome. Making Hay with JRA. I am Lee Godbold. I've got Mr. Shane Miller, head of our AdWords management department here at JRA. And today we will be talking about Google Ads. Shane, appreciate you coming on with us.
Yep, no problem.
So again, guys, Junk Removal Authority is the premier provider of marketing and consulting services for the junk removal industry. Please check us out online at junkra.com. Today we're going to be covering pay-per-click advertising. We normally call it Google Ads because Google is the big dog in the PPC market. But there is another player out there that sometimes you probably will want to be doing because there's some low-hanging fruit. We're going to talk about it. If you guys have a current Google Ads campaign you would like us to evaluate, you may share, you can share your campaign read-only access with SEO at junkremovalauthority.com. We can actually pull it up and evaluate it. Now it is on a live stream, so you have to make sure you're willing for us to actually take a look at it on a live stream. We're going to teach you how to set up your own campaign, why it's important for you to actually work with an ads management company that knows what they're doing, but we know some of you guys are real stubborn, so we're going to try and give you as much information as we can, because some of you guys are going to go out there, try it on your own, you're going to get bloodied up, and then you can come running to us. But we're going to at least going to get you started in that process. So, Shane, talk about what exactly is pay-per-click advertising.
Yeah, so basically you pick keywords that you want to target, and then when a user queries that into Google, your ad would appear, depending on your different bidding strategy, what platform you choose to bid on, your ad would show.
Yeah, so PPC, exactly that. It's pay-per-click. It's either going to be on the Bing network or on Google Ads. And a lot of people forget about Bing. Bing can be good for certain markets. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. One of the first things you really want to do before you run off and you start a pay-per-click campaign is you really want to understand, hey, is pay-per-click right for me at this very moment? And one of the things that we see from a lot of individuals is they might approach us, they come to us, and I think they expect pay-per-click to be the one thing that's going to make their business blow up. You see that all the time, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not going to be just the one thing. It is simply another piece in a puzzle that may or may not really help your business grow and expand depending on your market. So here's a few things that you really need to understand before you're going to decide, is it right for you to do PPC? Number one, are you willing to commit the money to it? Those of you guys that want to get out and you want to try this for $200 or $300, you're likely not going to get any results at all. Because what happens is when you're at $200 or $300, you actually appear on the bottom of the page. For example, if I search for junk removal in our area, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this screen right now, but those of you guys that are going after $200 or $300, you're going to be down here. So you're going to be at the very bottom of the page. We've got Junk Miser, we've got Mick Junk, and we've got 888 Pick It Up. Up top, we've got Junk Doctors and 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Junk Luggers, College Hunks Hauling Junk. These are the guys, this is us. Junk Doctors is us, Got Junk, Junk Luggers, College Hunks. These are the ones willing to actually spend a lot of money on ads. And if you're not willing to pop up there up top with a higher budget, then it's probably not really for you. Now, if you're in an area, there really is an advantage for companies that are located in a smaller service area. We've seen this throughout the country. These smaller service areas, they're a lot less competitive. That means your cost per click's less. That means sometimes, even on a very aggressive budget, you might not even max out your budget. Like literally, we have small markets that cannot spend enough money. They're getting a lot of great jobs from it. Their cost per click's low enough because nobody else in their market's doing it, or very few people. There's very little competition. They're not willing to spend a lot of money. That you actually kill in small markets. So if you're in a small market, that's a great time to start Google Ads, even if you're willing to spend a bit less. I'd still at minimum, what do you say, $1,000 at minimum in a small market, probably $1,500.
Absolutely.
I mean, $1,000 minimum, closer to $1,500 would be great. Those of you guys in larger markets, LA, California's tough for pay-per-click. You have to be willing to spend a lot of money. LA, San Francisco, Atlanta, New York City, Manhattan area. Any of these Chicago, major metro areas, you've really got to be willing to spend a lot of money in those. I mean, I would say it's closer to $4,000 a lot of times in those markets.
Yeah, absolutely. The larger markets, I always love seeing smaller towns, not Atlanta, Chicago, New York, the bigger cities, it's a lot tougher. What happens is you have a lot of competitors out there, and then when you have competitors, they bring in click fraud. So they're clicking on your ads, they're charging your company money. There's definitely ways around it, and we have been successful in larger cities, but we always like seeing the smaller towns. They always do extremely well.
All right, and so you've got willing to commit enough money, you've got understanding your population, and then the next thing is your website set up correctly already? Because if you got great ads, they're going to land on your site, and if your site doesn't lead to jobs, then that's not then you've wasted that money basically. And are you able to answer the phone, and do you have good phone skills? There's 3 parts to Google Ads. You got the ad copy, you got the landing page, you got the phone skills. If any of those 3 are missing, you do not want to do Google Ads because you're going to waste money on that spend. So Shane, what I'd like to do right now is let's get into, do we have any questions at all, Aaron, before we roll into this next thing? Aaron, I think he's listening away on audio. Any questions at all? We good? Okay. All right, just point out to us if we got any questions. Guys, if you have any questions at all related to Google Ads, let's try and keep it on Google Ads because this is going to be a pretty expansive program today. Please post it online. Okay, so setting up your campaign. Again, Shane, this is not somebody's come to us and we're setting up a campaign for them. What this is somebody that we are instructing. All right, they want to set up their very own campaign. So what's their first step?
Yeah, you want to pick an area that you have a lot of jobs in. You're already successful. Like if you have a town in your area that you see most of your jobs come from, you want to pick a good town. Your service area is not the same as the area that you want to pick for Google Maps. Just because you service, let's say, 30 miles around Raleigh, if you pick that area to target with paid advertising, that is going to fail because that area is too large. If you wanted to do if you do a 30-mile radius, you better make sure to have a budget to cover that 30-mile radius. What you want to do is you want to pick an area. If you're new to ads and you want to build a campaign on your own, I'll pick the town that you mainly do most of your jobs from and target that area. Target that small population, test it out, write those ads, and include that town name in that ad. So if you're in Raleigh, you want to say Raleigh junk removal. If you're in another small town like Poughkeepsie, New York, you want to say Poughkeepsie junk removal. And you want to pick that town so those people in the area know that your ad is targeted exactly for them.
To further expand, one thing he talked about was Raleigh. All right, so right around Raleigh, there's a suburb of Raleigh called it's Cary, North Carolina. Cary has a population of about 150,000. Higher income, I think the average income in Cary's average household income is probably pushing 100K. I think it's in the 90s. So Cary is an area we do a lot of work. If somebody was to come in new to ads, and Cary's not a good example because you're just not going to beat out junk doctors. But let's just say if there's another market in your area similar to a Cary. Cary, it's 150,000 people, good income. It's ripe for junk removal. So instead of targeting the entire Raleigh market, which includes Raleigh, includes Durham, Chapel Hill, Garner, there's a million of these little cities around Raleigh. You would actually just pick maybe like a Cary, 150,000 people. Make a service area just be that suburb. Make your ads for Cary. Make your landing page just for Cary. Make the content that's on that page all about the city of Cary and the services you provide. Hot tub removal, everything built around that one city. And you just show ads in that one city. You get your bids right. You are very aggressive in that one area. You monitor results. You see where they're at. And then if things are looking good, you have more money to spend. Stuff's coming in. Your acquisition cost is where it's profitable. Then you start expanding out into these larger markets. What happens so often is when people start Google Ads, they get scared away. And that's because they try and take out too big of a chunk all at once. And it scares the hell out of you. Start with a small market. Be very aggressive in that market, and then once you figured it out in that one market, begin adding other cities a little at a time. Unless you've got $100,000 or at least $25,000 to really put towards this, you want to make sure that you're doing little chunks at a time.
Yeah, let's say you're in a bigger market. So there's a lot of you guys out there that might be in Miami, and in Chicago, and in Los Angeles, and your service area can be large. What you want to do with Google Ads, you can target by zip code. So if you guys are listening or in a large city, Seattle, Chicago, Miami, anything like that, what you want to do is you want to go and search in Google, the top top 10 zip codes for that large city. So you want to target that area and then write your ads targeting those zip codes of the highest income or medium income. And that only really applies to people that are in larger cities.
Yeah, and that being said, one of the big things on Google Ads is also what you exclude, and on pay-per-click is what you exclude. So if there's certain areas, like, I mean, a lot of these major metro areas, Chicago is an example. You have one part of Chicago, it's like the north side's the wealthier part, right? The south side's the lower income part. You're probably just going to completely exclude the south side. And sometimes some of these cities, you've got one just kind of bad market that's surrounded by good markets. Well, that bad market, exclude it. If it's lower income, if it's people that are going to haul stuff into the woods, or if they're going to leave it at the curb, or if they aren't homeowners, they're going to leave everything in the house, you want to exclude those areas. That doesn't mean you're not going to be doing work in those areas, but typically if you're doing work in those areas, it's because somebody that lives in a wealthier area that you're advertising in owns a property that they're renting out in a lower income area. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're setting these campaigns up.
Yeah, and as your budget grows, you can expand out and then try larger cities on your own as well. We do our best to research it. We watch new campaigns that we launch. But if you're doing this on your own, as your budget grows, you might want to target those areas because, like Lee had said, there is jobs to be had. A lot of the lower income areas are where companies build property because it's cheaper land. In Chicago, the United Center is in the lower income area because the land was cheap, and but there's still jobs there to be had. But it's something that if you're new into ads, we want to set you up for success, and you want to target those areas that are most likely going to give you a return on your investment.
Okay, so one of the main things people say when they call us up, they're asking questions about Google Ads, and they say, well, why should I hire you guys? Because Google is gonna, they help me out. They assist us in setting up these campaigns, and they do like these quarterly reviews. These quarterly reviews, when I was self-managing, before I was an AdWords expert, or at least before I hired an AdWords expert, and Shane came on board with us, what I would find that would happen is Google would call up, we'd go through these changes, we'd get more clicks, because it does make you show better and show more often, but you wouldn't get more business. So you'd spend more money, you have less money coming in. What we always want to remind everybody is the Google rep might not realize it, because they really do. I think the individual Google rep, they're trying to help your campaign get set up as well as possible and show as often as possible. They are a salesperson for Google. Now, I don't think their salesperson is not in their name, but they're a salesperson for Google. Google's ad revenues are something like 30 or 40 billion per quarter, or Google's revenues are 30 or 40 billion per quarter, and of that, about 90% of it comes from Google Ads. They live and die by Google Ads. So their main objective when they contact you is helping Google increase their income by you getting more clicks. So what I'm rolling into is these bid strategies.
Yeah, they don't know the industry is the biggest problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's it. They've got no industry knowledge, so they'll get you more clicks, but is the more clicks related to what it should be? So keyword bidding strategies, when you set up these keyword campaigns, needs to be manual, right?
Yeah, you want to pick the keywords that you want to target. Stay away from broad match because that's where you're really going to get burned. Broad match is kind of like letting Google, if a keyword is close enough, they're gonna, if I put in ladies hats and ladies hats can display anything hat related, but you want to be as specific as possible and stay away from broad match if you can.
So what are some keywords that they should target?
The biggest keywords are junk removal, junk hauling, and the big ticket keywords, hot tub removal, shed removal, things that you guys can make a lot of money on. So you want to target those keywords because that's where we know the return on investment is going to be. All
right, and then like hoarding clean out.
Yeah, hoarding clean out is also a good one.
Low search volume, but
yeah,
big job.
And you got to be careful when you target these keywords. It's real. You pay how. Google has a formula for relevancy, and they want to make sure that they're sending paid traffic to the most relevant page. So if you're going to target shed removal, if you're going to target hot tub removal, if you're going to target other things, you want to make sure that you have a landing page that's built for hot tub removal, because if a person puts in hot tub removal in San Francisco and you bring them to the regular junk removal page, they might not convert that well, and Google's actually going to charge you more money for that because that page doesn't mention hot tub or doesn't have anything. Here at JRA, we build individual landing pages for these keywords. So when someone types in hot tub removal, it brings them to a hot tub removal page with a video and is optimized for that job. So you just want to be careful and you could set this up in different ad groups when you target keywords. I would, if I was setting up, when we set up campaigns, we have a ad group for every specific keyword, and in that ad group you can add a URL, whatever website, whatever address you want that to go to. Just make sure that you're targeting that keyword with the correct landing page.
Aaron, do you have the mock-up of the Junk Express page for hot tub removal?
I believe so.
Can you send that to me via Skype? I'll pull it up there and we'll show an example of that. So keywords are extremely important as to what you're targeting, but I think a lot of times people actually believe that's the most important thing with Google. It's all right, I need more keywords. What keywords are you targeting? Give me more. Your number of keywords, the number of key keywords that you have is literally going to be limited. So I mean, you might, when you first start, if you're on a limited budget, it might be 5 or 6 keywords that you target. Single items, you did not just talk about single items, did you?
Yeah, you want to stay away from single items because you're going to get burned.
Like mattresses, grills. So,
yeah, mattress. I mean, there's things that there's keywords that have search volume that Google talks about, and if you're setting up your campaign, you're going to see this. You're going to put in junk removal, and then Google is going to recommend about 100 different keywords, and this is going to be grill removal, refrigerator removal, bed hauling, mattress removal. It's going to be a laundry list of your competitors because they look at your website and they say, okay, you do junk removal. Well, let's target college hunks. Let's target 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Let's target all of these people. But you can't do that. You got to pick, like Leah had said, you have to pick a few focus keywords and focus in on that. If you want to target 1-800-GOT-JUNK, if you want to target college hunks, if you have a big competitor in your area, you could target them. But not in the beginning, because if you pull clicks away from, let's say someone types in 1-800-GOT-JUNK and they land on your junk removal page, you need to tell them why. In your head, it's like, okay, they're going to click on my page and they're going to see I'm a local company and I'm 20% cheaper. Well, unless you specifically tell that user that, they're not going to know. They're going to be like, oh, this isn't 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and they're going to go back and you just paid $10 or $20 for a click that just didn't convert.
One thing I will mention, when you guys are creating these competitor comparison pages, you might not want to actually list the company's name. You're allowed to do that, but there's some very specific rules that you have to follow, and unless you're keeping up with it nonstop, like for example, one of the things you have to follow is you have to make sure if you list their pricing information, if their pricing changes, you have to keep it up. So like Progressive Auto Insurance is a company that we use as an example of this that does a really good job, is they show rate comparisons, but they're constantly changing that rate comparison. So you have to make sure anything you post on your page is accurate at that very moment. So if a company changes something and you don't update it on your site, you can actually be breaking, they can actually have grounds to sue you at that point. The other thing you got to remember is when you're targeting these larger companies, is if they want to send you a cease and desist letter, and should they want to go after you legally, they're going to be able to outspend you. Unless you're a larger company, they're going to be able to outspend you. So a lot of times what's best is do like competitor 1, competitor 2, show up for the got junk keyword, but then just talk about the different things, the different differences between your company and this other national franchise. And generally that's going to be what's going to really lead you to convert well. Did you just send this hot tub page? Was that what I got here? So this page we have not built out yet. But this is for the company in San Francisco. It'll be built out this week. It's about hot tub removal. Now some of this wording we're going to change here. Let me move my computer over. So this is a video. So we got a video with them actually performing hot tub removal. I don't know if you guys saw that video. It was posted on our YouTube channel. It talks about the different steps of how we cover it. And then we also give information on doing it yourself. If you want to do it on your own, this is some great information on it. So this is great content. It's relevant to hot tub removal. That's going to get your quality score up on Google, which means you're going to pay less than if you have a higher quality score, you'll pay less than with a low quality score. This is what and this page is also built to convert. So customers really, they're going to stay on page some. It's going to help out on SEO indirectly, not necessarily if it came from a Google ad, but the time on page does help. This is what we're talking about: custom landing pages for each of your keywords. You can't just send it straight to your home page. It needs to go at least. It needs to go to most of your keywords need to go to a custom landing page.
Exactly.
Okay, so we do have. we touched on negative keywords briefly, but I don't think we gave people examples of negative keywords, did we?
Yeah, we can go over some examples. So, we probably reviewed close to 100 Google Ads campaigns here. And the biggest thing is the biggest consistency across the board is we see guys getting killed for junk cars, recycling, trash removal, and my biggest pet peeve is waste management.
Yeah.
There we so much money gets wasted on garbage pickup, which is not junk removal in most areas. There are some, like we see in New York, garbage removal and junk removal are real similar. As far as the customer, but in most areas of the country, I would say 90%. If you need to do some research on your own, but with Google Ads, you could set your negative keyword lists, and the things that you want on your negative keyword list are free. If someone types in free, automatically you do not want your ad to appear. Number 2, cheap. You do not want your ad, if they put in cheap junk removal, cheap junk hauling, you do not want your ad to appear. Anything cars, vehicles, add all those as negative keywords. Recycling, trash removal, your competition name, add your competitors' names. And the biggest one, waste management. Don't spend $1 targeting waste management, because they're just, click on your ad because people just don't know, they're not looking, and then you'll end up paying $500 a month for waste management. And that's probably the biggest wasted ad spend that we see our garbage collection companies.
What about city of?
Oh,
City of, town of.
All right, that actually could beat waste management. City of blank, whatever city you're in, city of Raleigh, city of San Francisco. You would think city of Raleigh junk removal, you want to target that keyword, but no, stay away from that keyword. You're never going to see conversions, because if they put in city of blank and they put in your city name, they are looking for free government pickup. So add city as a negative keyword, because if they put that in, they're not looking to pay.
Yeah, they're looking for free curbside pickup. If your area doesn't offer free curbside pickup, then maybe you have it show, but I know most municipalities out there do offer that. So that's one thing to really kind of research. So let's talk, you mentioned this briefly before, click fraud. What is click fraud?
So click fraud is basically you've got your competitors out there, and there's a lot of junk removal companies in your area. They're going to start clicking on your ad, especially so let's say you're new into AdWords and you just pop up for the first time. You're going to get a ton of click fraud, because your competitors are going to try to scare you out of that market. And I often get asked at times, like, what percentage is this? Like, if I get 100 clicks, we have seen click fraud as high as 50% in a market. So that means out of the 20 clicks that you got in a day, 10 of them end up being fraudulent, which is crazy. So there's two things that happen with click fraud. Number one, Google looks out for you. If they see fraudulent clicking, what they will do is give you an invalid click rate, and they'll refund that money. How accurate and how well do they do that is to be determined. From the articles I have read and the research we've done on it, it is extremely high, and it's high it's high in the service industry. When you have a high ticket item, then the sales cycle is instantaneous, or the sales cycle is only a day or an hour. There is a lot of click fraud. So the two things that combat that are Google. Google has algorithms to monitor click fraud, and then there's also a service out there called ClickSees, which we utilize. We have an agency subscription for ClickSees, and what that does is it monitors every single IP address that clicks on your ad. We set parameters where if a user clicks, you could set any parameters you want, but if a user clicks more than twice on your ad, what happens is we block that IP address, and they're no longer eligible for your ad to show. Depending the market, let's say we were in the moving industry. Well, we might have that more than twice. We might have it 5 or 6 times, because the moving sales cycle could be considerably longer. But in junk removal, it's probably a quick sales cycle. I know we've all taken phone calls. It's usually come out here same day or next week. So if a user is clicking on your ad more than 2 or 3 times, most likely that's a competitor. Another cool thing that ClickSees does is ask for a refund. So every 90 days, ClickSees sends an email to Google and says, based upon our algorithms, we're seeing some click fraud based upon this and this and this and this. We would like a refund for these fraudulent clicks. And we've seen some refunds get issued.
Yeah, and a lot of this, as far as click fraud, it depends on how aggressive you want to be. So some of you guys out there, you might set it, all right, if somebody clicks on my ad 7 or 8 times, block it. And some of you guys, with a really low budget, you might say, all right, if somebody clicks on my ad twice, block it. So it just depends on if you're hitting your budget or not. If you're not hitting your budget, maybe you're a bit more aggressive. As far as, I guess in this case would be less aggressive on blocking clicks. One other thing you can do to help combat, and it's hard in the service industry, but one thing you can do to help combat click fraud is find your competitors' home addresses and office address and actually block those addresses from showing on Google Ads. And then, that way, theoretically, they're probably, a lot of times they're going to be at their home or they're going to be at the office, so your ad won't even show to them at that point if you go about it that way.
And then the bigger markets tend to see more click fraud. So if you're in a smaller town, if you're in a big city, there's a lot of click fraud. If you're in a smaller town like Rochester, New York, we don't see any click fraud out of there. There's a lot of towns that we don't see any click fraud. These are smaller towns, but we still monitor it because we do have an agency subscription. So every account every AdWords customer that we have gets ClickSees. So if you're running AdWords on your own, I would highly recommend ClickSees. If you're an individual, I think it's like $30 a month, and I guarantee you it'll pay for itself within a week. And then you'll get IP addresses and be able to tell, oh, this user just clicked on. I mean, we've seen 8 clicks in 30 seconds before, where someone just clicks, and we're able to block them. So it's really cool software. Highly recommend it.
And I guess kind of wrapping up the whole click fraud thing, one of the advantages, again, on starting out small, so if you start out in a small city that you're targeting, and also be a little less aggressive when you first start ads. So go after that. Don't go after the first position sometimes, not always, but sometimes you may not want to go after that first position. Instead, go after like the 3rd position or maybe 4th. And what'll happen is the competitors will get used. They'll click on your ad there for a while. They'll see you pop up. They'll click on your ad. And eventually, after a few weeks, they realize, hey, this guy's here to stay, and they'll just get bored with doing it. They're still trying to run a business. They're going to get bored with actually clicking on that ad and running up that cost. At that point, you can start getting, if you want to be more aggressive and kind of slip that ad up a little bit higher. That doesn't mean click fraud's going to come back in. If you've got some guy that's been at number 1 and all of a sudden you're knocking on his door, you're knocking him off number 1, there's a good opportunity, there's a good chance this guy's going to start clicking on your ad again. But the fact you didn't pop up there the very first time and go after that number 1 spot could help you on reducing the amount of damage that's done from click fraud.
Yeah. And then one thing that we skipped over real quick, I'm going to go back, is the bidding strategy. So we always recommend, and for probably 90% of our campaigns that we build, we use a bidding strategy called manual CPC, we use manual bidding. You want to stay away from the automatic bidding. So enhanced CPC, you want to keep your bids manual, and if you're in a market, keep it at $5 or $10, and stay away from any of the enhanced or conversion design or conversion bidding. Any of that stuff is just, it's going to cost you more money. You're not going to see, because especially you're controlling the keywords that you display for. So does enhanced CPC work? Maybe if we were in a market where we don't know the exact keywords that we want to target, but when you're targeting specific keywords and those target keywords, manual bidding strategies are the best. So keep it at $5 or $10 a click and see where that brings you.
What enhanced CPC is as well, guys, is Google will automatically make it a bid much more aggressive if they think a customer is about to purchase. And they base it off the customer search history. I don't know what they're looking for in junk removal, but we found it not to be very competitive, not to be very good. Instead, it racks the bill. The cost per click can skyrocket with very little. A lot of times, there's not a higher conversion percentage with enhanced CPC.
Yeah, when you turn that on, you're basically giving Google control.
That's one of the things that we talk about. If Google has a suggestion, pretty much ignore it, because it's never a good thing. For the most part, at least for junk removal. There are some other categories out there, some other businesses. I think e-commerce, enhanced CPC is pretty good for e-commerce, because that means somebody's buying right from Google. So Google can actually 100% track conversions. They know when somebody makes a purchase. With junk removal, they don't know if they actually picked up the phone and called you all the time. They know some of the time, but not all the time. They don't know once we got that phone call, did that lead to a job? When that person called, was it actually a good customer? Google has no idea of that. Anything automatic related to Google, 99.9% of the time, run the other direction, ignore it. If you're going to do this cost per click thing, it's got to be done manually. You really got to know your crap to be able to do it. Got any questions? What we got?
Oh yeah, junk removal. I'm going to skip over yours real quick since it's off topic. But code 3, for a person running their own campaign, do you recommend Google Ads Express?
Ooh.
Yeah, no, absolutely not, because you can't. Google Ads Express is totally limited, and that's basically getting in a Tesla and closing your eyes and hoping you get there safe.
It's 100% automatic.
Yeah,
You can't even do negative keywords on Express, right?
we haven't really dove into it, but you can't even see the search terms, so you don't even know what you're appearing
It's
for.
the search terms, that's right. You can do negative keywords, but you can't see the search term reports on it. So AdWords Express is basically all the control we're talking about having, you're giving it all to Google. Neither one of us are AdWords Express experts, other than we've reviewed campaigns that have come to us from AdWords Express, and some of the keywords that were being targeted were 100% incorrect. Their conversions weren't very good. So there's some great articles online about why not to do AdWords Express. I think Google had a good idea when they did it, but again, Google's always trying to get extra income.
Yeah, and basically, I believe AdWords Express writes all your ads and does literally everything for you. So you could definitely get a better return on investment if you write your own ads and target your area.
We've got another question coming in from Lewis on YouTube. Lee, in my area, I did it by zip codes, but I added over 150 zip codes. Should I focus more on the zip codes I get jobs from?
Yeah, 100%. Until you get to the point where you're willing to spend a ton of money. He didn't give a zip code example, did he? Yeah, so this goes back kind of the beginning. We were talking about just focusing on all right, look at what's the most profitable for you. So what market brings a bunch of work? The work you get from it are generally customers that don't negotiate much on price, so you get high profitable work. Maybe the jobs are a bit easier, because we all know there are certain areas. There are areas in North Carolina. If we get a call for Benson, North Carolina, we know we're going out and it's going to be a very labor intensive job, because anybody that lives in Benson, for the most part, the only reason they're going to call you to come do a job is because they themselves, it's too hard for them to do. They just don't want to put up with it. And then there's certain areas, Cary. We'll go to Cary or Chapel Hill, and it'll be some cardboard boxes in a garage that we remove. So pick areas that are best for you to focus on. Good population, good income. You've gotten jobs there in the past. It's profitable work. People don't negotiate on price as much. And target there. It's close to your office. I mean, that factors into it. Target there. Refine your strategy there. Then expand out into other markets. You don't want to target a huge service area at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Code 3, I can guarantee you. You said 150 zip codes. That's way too much. I mean, I don't know what area of the country you're in, but I'd start with 10 or 15 and expand from there. Because if you're going to target 150 zip codes, I hope you're spending $1,000 a day. Because I guarantee you, if you limit your zip codes and write those ads for that area, you're gonna see a substantial increase in calls and business. Because when you target an area that big, what happens is your budget runs out like that, because your ad is displaying everywhere.
Or your CPC so low, you're not even showing hardly at all.
Yeah.
Showing low enough that no good customers really clicking on it.
And Lewis kind of expands on that too and says, I built ad groups of my campaign and use about 3 keywords per ad group and about 5 ad groups with a $1,000 budget.
Okay.
$1,000 monthly budget.
$1,000 a month?
Not sure.
Okay.
One of the things that he pointed out there that he's actually doing correct, and I don't think we've really talked much about it, but you do want to build out individual ad groups for each city. So with Atlanta, you'd have Atlanta, Marietta, Alpharetta, on down the list. You'd actually have individual ad groups for each of those cities. You'd have campaigns. You'd have individual campaigns for each of those cities, and then you would do a shared budget, which Google now allows you to do that it used to.
Yeah, so I'll say that again real quick so you all understand. This is really important, especially if you're in 150 zip codes. So pick the names of the town, build a campaign around that town, build a campaign around that town. Don't build an ad group. Specific campaigns are going to perform better, because what you could do is, if when you target like Alpharetta, Atlanta, in different campaigns on a shared budget, you could entice that user to click on your ad, because you're going to make sure if they're in Alpharetta, they see the keyword Alpharetta junk removal, or if they're in Atlanta, they'll see the keyword Atlanta junk removal, and then that'll help your click-through rate.
Yeah. So if you have Alpharetta, for an example, you have one campaign of Alpharetta, it only shows in Alpharetta. And with ad groups, you can't do that because the map is off the campaign.
Yeah, the map is
That's
off the
reason.
campaign, not the ad group.
Okay, great.
And he actually did provide some more info here. He's got a good zip code and a crappy zip code. If you want to take a look at those.
Sure. What you got?
So the good zip code he said he always gets jobs is 75034.
I think it's California.
75034.
Yep.
Texas. Frisco and Plano, Texas. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if is that the good area?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, all right, Shane, I'll let you expand on this, but if this is Frisco, Plano. All right. So Frisco, Plano. I'm familiar with those two. Little Elm, the Colony, and Hackberry, I think, are smaller areas than Frisco and Plano. So definitely for Frisco and Plano, have individual campaigns.
Yeah, I would build out, just seeing this original. I mean, I've heard of the town Frisco, I've heard of the town Plano. I'd build out 2 campaigns on the shared budget: Plano junk removal, Frisco junk removal, and I think that would do pretty well over zip codes.
So I'm looking now. Let's see. Got junk luggers, stand-up guys. I don't know, stand-up guys was in Frisco. Okay, so let's look and see stand-up guys. Let's see if they've done what we're talking about here. And this is fairly, I mean, a lot of you guys have done individual landing pages for cities, but this is what you'll want to do that. Now this page right here is really, even though it SEOs decently well, it's very, very text heavy. This page probably won't convert as well as some web pages will. But yeah, landing page and campaign for Frisco, make the map targeted at Frisco and at Plano, 2 different campaigns, and that's what I would do. Pick those zip codes, run those individual campaigns, and even if you're ignoring, I don't know if you service Dallas or not, but you can ignore most of Dallas. On a $1,000 budget, you might be able to pick these individual suburbs and campaigns, be very aggressive in those markets, and see how that compares to the results you've been getting. Then you want to expand on into the more cities and then the big one, which is Dallas. Any other questions?
Yes, we've got one from Raul De La Torre on YouTube. How much is this? And is there a contract or month to month, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we'll talk about our Google Ads management service, which we've yet to see a campaign that we could not improve and make up for our management fee. So anybody that's willing to spend at least $1,500 a month on Google, we've had people show us their old campaigns, and between the savings and savings on bad keywords and increased income on good keywords showing better and more often, we have always made up our management fee. Our management fee is $750. It's $750 a month from $1,500 to $4,000 a monthly ad spend on Google Ads. If you go above $4,000, it becomes $1,250 because we have to watch that campaign even closer than we do at $750. One thing I will touch on, since we're asking about pricing, I want to reiterate to everybody, Google Ads only works if you're willing to be committed to it. And then we've seen some areas of the country that the acquisition cost is high enough where it's not extremely profitable for you. So you have to have other profitable work or income coming in for ads to work well in those areas for you to continually do those. I want to make sure people understand Google Ads, though it's going to give you a lot of short-term jobs normally, not always, but normally, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to bring a tremendous amount of short-term profits. What happens, though, is it's a long-term strategy because these customers are going to use you again, they're going to refer you, and they're going to leave reviews online. That's going to allow you to really scale and grow your business. And there are a lot of markets in the country where you are profitable even on that first job, fairly profitable in that first job. And then in that case, it makes it easy. You just decide, all right, I'm making money on each of these jobs. I want to get busier. I want to get this busier, much busier. So what I need to do is I need to spend the X amount of, I need to spend 2 times, 3 times, 4 times what I'm spending on Google, and that should theoretically give me 2, 3, 4 times more jobs. And then you just monitor it as you go, for sure. But it's $750 a month, no contract. It's all month to month. But we would like people to be willing to try out ads. If you're going to do it on your own, or if you're going to come to us, be willing to do at least a 2 or 3 month trial run. After 2 or 3 months, we'll know, you'll have a good idea if it's going to work. If you're using it with us, if it's going to work in your market or not. Now, if you try and self-manage, you'll go out, you'll try it for 2 or 3 months. It's not going to work for you a lot of times. You're going to get scared away, and you're going to miss out on an awesome opportunity to really, really, really have an awesome and great and profitable junk removal business.
So we've got one off-topic question here. NPR junk body, moving truck style ramp or hydraulic liftgate?
I like hydraulic lift gates, but the problem is they dig into the ground when you dump them. If it's a dump style truck, so I mean they're nice to have, like pianos and really heavy items to kind of hoist up in there. But overall, the majority of the trucks you'll want is the ramps. The way we do it is we have one truck with a lift gate. The rest of them have ramps. If we have a really heavy item, we send that truck out on it.
So Lewis is following up as well, saying, following on the zip code and building campaigns, I'm located about 30 to 45 minutes away from the area that generates me the most revenue, which is Frisco and Plano, instead of targeting closer to my area. So he's asking if you would recommend doing that.
Yeah, I mean, most likely if your area is not all that, if you don't get a whole lot of jobs from it, if the income's a bit lower, it might not be a very competitive market, so you could potentially run a campaign in that market, but you just want to see what kind of results you get. Here's the main thing I'd like to know though: is Frisco, Texas, does it have a landfill in the area? It looks like it does. I mean, I'm not an expert on Frisco, Texas, but it looks like there's a collection center. I don't know if this is a transfer station or if this is something for citizens, for residents. That might be for residents, actually. Environmental Services, Frisco, Texas. I'm sure he'll tell us, but if there is a landfill near Frisco or transfer station near Frisco or Plano, I'd drive 30 minutes out to that area and I'd hang in that area all day long. I'd dump there, I'd do jobs there, as much as possible. So a lot of times it's not from where your office is, it's from where the landfill is. If you can stay busy in Frisco and Plano and there's a landfill nearby, it's a pretty clear-cut decision. Those are the areas you need to target. Got any other questions?
And one more thing from Lewis. You mentioned we need a good website for Google Ads. How can I check it? Some people told me it's ranking at 88 and others under 50.
Yeah, so I think he's talking about organic ranking there. Organic ranking really doesn't matter for Google Ads because it's going to put you up top. Now, a site that doesn't rank well organically probably is not properly set up, which could affect your quality score potentially for Google. We don't have a website for him, do we?
I don't have one yet. Lewis, if you got that website, we can actually take a look at it live if you'd like us to.
Yeah, that's most important. So I think people always forget you could write ads and they perform really well, but once, like Lee had said in the beginning, once they click on your ad, Google Ads did its job. It got the user to click, and now it's time for your website to perform well. You want to see pictures of your team. We want to see a phone number that's easily visible, and a lot of people love booking online. So I'd love to take a look at his website as soon as he provides it, because that's most important. If you're getting clicks and people aren't converting, then it's really an issue with the website.
This is a site we did right here, Altitude Hauling. And you can see it's Brandon, that's the owner, friendly looking guy, got a professional looking truck. This is SEO related, but this also is ads related. It does mention Denver, Colorado, so Google knows at that point that when somebody enters in stuff for like junk removal Denver, that this site is relevant to Denver. That's going to increase the quality score. We give information kind of on how the service works. We do give some pricing information. Now we are A/B testing pricing, showing pricing or not showing pricing to see what converts better. And in this case on him, we actually did a pricing comparison just because it seems like in Denver this has worked out fairly well for him. Then there's some additional pages, and we also have landing pages. We have additional city landing pages for Altitude Hauling built for the Google Ads campaigns. Very professional looking page. What you have to remember is a lot of people that are going to Google and they're looking to hire, they've clicked on you up top and they're actually interested in purchasing your service. They're less concerned over the price of the service. They're more concerned on the professionalism of your company. You want to make sure you're going to show up on time. You're not going to case them to come back and rob them later. A lot of times it's single women or whatever hiring the service, or not single women necessarily, but women who are home alone, stay-at-home moms. They want to feel comfortable that when you come to your home, their home, that you're professional and it's not somebody they have to really worry about themselves or their family, which is home alone.
We got a website from Lewis, junkyourjunk.com.
Like it, junkyourjunk.com. YOUR.
That's it.
Okay. I've seen worse. And Aaron, we might even pull you in on this, but not an appealing picture at all. Really not a very good probably not a good example of what you actually do either. This is just stuff at the curb, which I would imagine very little of your jobs is stuff that occurs at the curb. So again, get pictures of people's faces in there. What you don't want to have happen is a really nice homeowner that makes good money, nice stuff. You know, you don't want to scare them away by having images of hoarding houses and stuff like that, because they're like, no, wait, I don't have a hoarding house. I have a couch or a TV I'm looking to get removed. Aaron, you want to add in on this?
Yeah, so I mean, just the first time someone gets to that site, you want the biggest thing to be kind of like what we have on altitude hauling, where it's just an inviting face. You want to highlight who is coming to do the service. It's about the customer. So it's about, you know, what they want, and what they want is somebody they feel like they know and that they can relate to coming out to give them a hand. Also, that header is pretty wide. I think it's just the size of your logo on there, but that header's taking up a ton of space that it doesn't need to, especially on mobile. You could also use a little bit better tagline there. You've got Dunk Your Junk, offering the highest quality service to all our customers, but you haven't actually outlined, you know, like what your service is yet. And it may seem obvious to you, but somebody who's kind of new to it isn't necessarily going to realize that immediately. So kind of emphasizing that you're the junk removal company first is important, and then your phone number is looking pretty small there. That could probably use to be a little bit larger. And then again, just with these images, you want friendly faces, you want team members, you want people that they can relate to rather than just a bunch of trash. And if you do have kind of a large body of copy here, you're going to want to break that up, and you're going to want to divide that into easier to read sections, because I guarantee nobody's going to want to read all of that information. So you've really got to capture their attention right off the bat. Those are kind of like the big overarching things that I see just from site design.
So priority one, get good images. So really, to be honest with you, a poor website can actually look halfway decent with great images.
Yep.
A awesome, fantastic, state-of-the-art website looks poor with poor images. Guys, go out and spend $300-400. Get you a professional photographer. If you've got good-looking trucks and vehicles, then you can get the vehicles in it. If not, make sure you're well uniformed. Don't worry about your vehicle. Get out there and show some guys lifting up some stuff, smiling at the camera in uniform, trustworthy, acting like they're enjoying what they're doing. Get awesome images. That's going to improve your site tremendously. That's priority one for you in this website. All right, so let's keep moving along, guys. We've got about another 12 minutes. We have a lot to cover in 12 minutes. I don't know if it's going to happen. As always, guys, you can check us out online at junkra.com as well. This Google Ads Management, Shane is more than happy. Shane at junkra.com. If you want to email him, if you're currently doing Google Ads, email Shane at junkra.com. You can give him read-only access if you'd like. He'll evaluate your current campaign, provide you with tips. This won't be on the live episode at this point, and he'll let you know if we can help you out. So let's talk about, all right, ongoing. We're skipping around here. CallRail. This actually does go along. Ongoing monitoring. We'll talk about CallRail here in a minute. What are some of the stuff that people need to be doing as far as monitoring their campaign?
Yeah, there's a lot
There's
a lot that goes into it. So your campaign is set up and you've got one running. Is it working? That's probably the biggest question of my job. Working with JRA is the campaign set up great? Clicks are everything's coming in. Is it working? So we use a couple systems. Google has conversion tracking, and then we use a system called CallRail. And what CallRail does is CallRail assigns a specific phone number to every user that comes to your website, depending the avenue. So if they come by Facebook, Yahoo, Google Organic, Google Ads, what happens is instantaneously that switches the phone number on your website, and then when that person calls, whether it's on their cell phone or on their work phone, it tracks that number, and then you can assign that lead to Google Ads. So depending how advanced you want to get into it, you can actually assign every caller a value. So, Joe Smith called on this date, and that job was $690, and you can assign those, like the revenue that you got on the job. So CallRail is just one of the tools that we use to track. We also use, Google has their own tools of tracking conversions as far as time on site, if they spent more than 2 minutes on your website. But for junk removal, time on site is kind of irrelevant because, 60 seconds or less, they should be picking up the phone and calling you.
Okay, so monitor the search term report. This is one of the number one things. I think you talked about it, but you need to know how to access search terms, not what your keywords are. There's actually a way you can pull out and you can see what are the exact search terms people are typing in that have clicked on your ad or that your ad is shown. And you're going to see some funny ones from time to time. We've had some incredible ones. How to clean semen stains off couch. I don't know why in the world that appeared, but I've seen it. Picture of white girl with junk in trunk. I've seen it. Picture of R. Kelly's new, no, not R. Kelly, Tupac's new junk has appeared, and we have paid search term reports for. What are some of the other things we've seen?
Those, you'll get killed on broad match, and this is why we stay away from broad match, especially when you're using the. I mean, you guys could use your imagination with the word junk. You get a lot of weirdo stuff. But if you're logged into Google Ads, on the left-hand side it says keywords. You can click on keywords. It's going to give you a couple tabs up top on the right-hand side. So I think it's the third tab in. It's going to say search terms. So you want to monitor that, and then if there's a bad search term, you can add it as a negative keyword. But don't worry if you get bad search terms. It's going to happen. It's part of Google Ads. But just got to add that as a negative keyword. Don't stress about it because it happens, and just move on.
Okay. Quick and dirty, I'm going to go through these steps right here. We'll elaborate. Monitor search term reports. Keep an eye on ClickCease for click fraud. Monitor results on CallRail. That's number 3. Monitor your average position. So what is the average position you're showing? We'll elaborate on that. What's your quality score? Keep an eye on that. You need to look at that. This stuff is daily. We'll talk about mouse trackers in a moment. You need to, at least weekly, test out your contact forms to make sure they're working correctly, and phone numbers that are showing, especially if you're using CallRail from time to time. Dial that number, make sure it's working right. Further on, some stuff we do is we do some A/B testing of ad copy and ads. This is that takes a ton of time. It's very valuable, but it takes a lot of time. We also A/B test landing pages, so we switch landing pages around to see if we change a landing page, is it going to lead to better conversions? Experiment with different service areas. So if you have a limited budget, you start out in one service area, you see how that's working, and then maybe you take a little extra money, you start another service area, and you compare the two. You figure out, all right, which one works better. Maybe you do both. Maybe if they're both working well, you expand out the new one. Or if you decide the new one works better than the old one, you stop doing the old one, you expand on the new one, and you kind of monitor results. All of this stuff, it's these little changes right here that really, really, really can get maximum value out of your Google Ads campaign. And as always, track that customer acquisition cost. Look back, a couple weeks ago, we did one on CAC. That is the number one most important number in your business when you're first starting out, other than if you're cash flow positive or not, or you're going to run out of cash. Customer acquisition cost is directly tied in with your cash flow. So let's talk about average position. This is pretty obvious, but why is it important to know exactly? I don't think I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this question. So average position is going to be exactly where you show on the particular page. If you're showing at number 3 or number 4, how can somebody raise up? What are the 2 ways somebody can raise up their average position if they're like number 3 or number 4?
So if you're number 3 or number 4, we always like to have our guys in the number 1 spot. Obviously, if you have a budget of $100 a day, you can keep that. There's a couple ways to use your $100 a day. You can keep your bids at $5 or $6 and aim for the number 3 or 4 spot. Your budget will last a day, but you're going to get a lot of price shoppers. What you would do is you want to increase your bid to maybe $10 a click and then shoot for that number 1 spot, because a lot of people that call that number 1 spot, if you're good on the phone, have a good website, you're going to get that job. So I would rather see, and we work this with our clients all the time that have a limited budget, I would rather see them spend a little bit more money and go after that number 1 spot, especially in the morning, guys. When that phone rings in the morning, those jobs are booking because they needed the service done that day. So, you're better off increasing your bids for those keywords, especially in the morning, and going after the number 1 spot.
There are very select markets where a number 2 spot might actually do as well as number 1. Again, you gotta mess around with your average position. One thing to always remember, though, is we all know there are buyers out there that literally they think the first company on Google is the most professional. That's who they're going to hire. They click on your ad, it looks good, they call you up, they hire, and you close the deal down. Do the job. That person is not calling anybody else. If you're not second, not third, they're not calling the second. If you're second, they're not calling you. If you're third, so on down the line, they're not calling you. It's kind of like the debate on, should I do Home Advisor? Should I do Angie's List? Should I do Yelp? the fact is, people are getting jobs on those platforms, whether they're a pain in the ass or not. It doesn't really matter. There's jobs out there. If you're not showing there, you're not going to get the work. You will get from time to time into click wars, bidding wars on Google Ads, and in that case, if you get into a bidding war, it's going to depend on how much money you got. We just got through a bidding war about 2 weeks ago with junk doctors. We just outspend it. We just outspend them. So it was a newer guy in the market, wanted to get in, wanted to challenge us, and I think what did we go to? I think we went
100.
Yeah, we were like, we're going to spend $100 per click, just something entirely insane. That individual lost that bidding war, and he was off of ads for about a week until he finally started back, and now he's hanging around towards the bottom of the top page. It depends. So you have to evaluate: do I have what it takes? Do I have both the guts as well as the money to go up against this individual in a bidding war? And if you don't, then you're going to want to back down. You could try it out for a little while, but chances are, if somebody's been up top for years and years, they're not going to give up that position very easily. So here's where you need to do. Again, ads is not everything. So you do an ad strategy, but then you accept that second or third spot. You get some jobs from it, but then you go out and you start doing Facebook advertising. You do Yelp advertising, Home Advisor. I want everybody to realize it's not just one thing. You want to do it all. You figure out what's really working for you. You expand on what works. You retract on what doesn't. Until you're doing everything and you're busy all the time, you have repeat customers, referral business, and all coming in. It is a huge, expansive strategy. It's not one thing is going to completely solve your business. So to kind of wrap, and we will take a couple questions. We need any last minute questions need to get in now. We got 3 minutes left in this episode. We might run a few minutes over, but any questions about Google Ads, please post them now. So let's quickly talk about. One thing I've got on here, mouse trackers. When should people use mouse trackers? What are the pros and cons? What is a mouse tracker also? A lot of people aren't going to know what it is.
Yeah, so mouse tracker, what it does is once you land on the website, it follows your mouse, and you can actually see exactly where the user is going on your website and when they go off. The biggest question is like, where do we see drops in mouse trackers that we've installed? It's a little, we use a service called MouseFlow, and a lot of times we see people drop off on pricing. Well, guess what? If they drop off on pricing, they don't like what they see, we remove the pricing option, and then phone calls increase. You close them on the phone, things are good. The bad part about mouse trackers is it slows down your site speed. So that's the bad part. So you keep it on there. So let's say you get 20 clicks, no one called. What's going on? I would highly, highly recommend installing a mouse tracker to watch those 20 clicks that you paid for and figure out why they dropped off your page. If they're on your page for a second or two, probably click fraud. If they dropped off on a certain point on your website, you should probably change that portion.
I just want to make sure people really understand what we're saying there. So let's pretend this is an iPad. If I were to land on this page here and I put my finger on this page and I scroll it, I scroll this page, it is going to show exactly where my finger touched on this page. So that way you're going to know exactly what the person was looking at. So for example, let's say they go to the contact page. The neat thing about the mouse tracker too is you actually see what they type in. It records the entire thing. So let's say they actually record something. So they enter in somebody's name, they enter in their email address, they enter in their phone number, they type in some stuff about what they have, and you see their mouse go over to submit, but you didn't get a contact form. You look through your contact form, you look through and you determine, I didn't get a contact form, what's going on? You test out this contact form, you realize this contact form is not working. And then you wonder, how many of these things did I mess up? This is something on a site we did not manage. This is in the real world examples on a landscaping company, one of the few non-junk removal ads campaigns we run. It was on a landscaping company or hardscape company. Turns out their contact form had probably been broken for months. They added up the revenue. It was over $50,000, wasn't it?
Oh, it was like 500. I mean, it
was like 500,000. It was over $500,000 worth of leads they never got because this contact form was not working. It was a campaign we had just taken over. There was some issues that had happened. We installed MouseFlow. We realized what was going on. We realized that contact form was bad. Again, on a site we did not manage. On our sites, we test out contact forms monthly. And it was over $500,000 of business that particular company missed out on. Because what we were able to do is log into WordPress, see all the contacts that have been submitted, and they're like, no, we didn't get any of these. So MouseFlow saved us. Now, what are the negatives of MouseFlow or Mouse Tracker?
Yeah, it slows down your site speed. So if you rank well organically, it could potentially drop your position. And it's, unless you're a web developer, you need to get with somebody that knows how to install it correctly.
Yeah, it slows down that site speed. Site speed is one of the most important things on organic ranking, if not the most important right now. Okay, main issues with do-it-yourself ads. Main things we normally see, just kind of wrapping up what we've talked about. Wrong keywords, and most important, not enough or incorrect negative keywords. So again, guys, you need waste management as a negative keyword. You need city of as a negative keyword. Junk car, scrap metal removal, metal prices, garbage removal most likely, so on and so forth. You need those added as negative keywords because the majority of people, even though there are some junk removal jobs potentially on those keywords, the majority are going to be for something other than junk removal. You target competition with a low budget and you target it incorrectly. Your service area, you set the service area the same as you have your target area with ads the exact same as the service area you're willing to do. That's normally a mistake unless you have an unlimited budget. You've got to monitor it daily. If you're not monitoring it daily, I guarantee you at some point you're going to start wasting a significant amount of money. You're not properly tracking results, and you're listening to Google. Remember, Google wants to sell you more ads. You do not want to listen to them. Any last questions before we wrap this up, Aaron?
Yeah, we actually had one come in from Blake on Facebook. And he said, Lee, can we figure out what 1-800-GOT-JUNK is spending in my market on AdWords in Louisville, Kentucky?
There are tools out there that estimate it, but we've never seen them to be very accurate.
Yeah, we've seen tools out there, but again, they're not accurate at all. And especially with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, those are set.
It's a national
thing, so the franchise owner doesn't have say in that, I don't believe.
Well, they do have say.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they've got some say, but it's one national company that manages it.
Yeah, they're not competitive at all on AdWords. If they're number one, you can bump them off usually pretty easily.
Yeah. There's certain markets out there that GotJunk goes after number one, but very, very few. Most of the time, they just determine they're going to spend X amount of dollars. And if you outdo that, then a lot of times they leave you alone. Here's a couple things to keep in mind about 1-800-GOT-JUNK owners. The majority of them have owned 1-800-GOT-JUNK for in excess of 5 years, most of them in excess of 10 years that are still in business. Most of them are millionaires. They're making, GotJunk brings in money to them like clockwork. They're not having to worry about this type of stuff. They've been doing it long enough. GotJunk is there's as many search terms for 1-800-GOT-JUNK or something related to GotJunk as there is junk removal. So they're not going to really worry too much about individual Google ads because everything else works so well for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Everybody wants to go in there and beat out 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and we do too. We are as busy as 1-800-GOT-JUNK in the Raleigh market. I don't think we've surpassed them. We may be a number of jobs we've surpassed them, but their average ticket is still higher. GotJunk just has it made. Go after it, use it for inspiration, but they can generally be beat on Google Ads. To answer your question, there are tools out there that estimate it, but we've done it on our own company, Junk Doctors, and it estimated that we spent X amount of dollars and we spent like 10 times X. So we've yet to see it be very accurate.
Yeah, it's not even close. And GotJunk, like Lee said, to reiterate, they're not relying on Google Ads like a small company does. It's like saying if we're going to open a restaurant, if I open a McDonald's, would I have to do any advertising? No, I could open a McDonald's and people will start to come. Or I shouldn't really say McDonald's. I say Chick-fil-A. If I open a Chick-fil-A, people will come. But if Lee opens a sandwich shop, no one's going to come to the doors when he first opens because no one knows what Lee's sandwich shop is.
All right. Anything else, Aaron? Okay, guys. Hey, I hope everybody found this episode to be helpful. I think a lot of what's going to happen is you're going to go through this and you're going to have enough to get started. You can get started and kind of try. There's so much to cover on Google Ads. This is just a starting point. One of the issues with Google Ads is everybody has a different strategy out there. Here's a couple things I'm going to tell you. Less is more. Smaller service area, less keywords, very specific on the ads that you put out there. Do not target single item pickups until you have a really, really high budget. really those couple things right there, it's going to set you up for potential success. When you guys are ready, if you're willing to spend at least $1,500 a month on ads, give us a call, 919-617-1975. And Shane, if you have your own campaign, Shane I'm fine if he gives you out some pointers. Say, hey, these are some things you probably want to change right here to kind of help improve your success. JunkRA.com, 919-617-1975. I am Lee Godbold. This is Shane Miller. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time, with the exception of this coming Thursday, as I will be in an air show, probably airborne or in the air, and unable to do a live broadcast, but we're going to try and bring you something in addition as well. 919-617-1975. We'll see you guys real soon. Thanks for watching.
Take care.